Beautiful people, welcome back again to another video. If you are new in this channel, this is Queen Sharon Entertainment, a home of freedom fighters. If you haven't joined our family yet, join us by hitting the red button down below on the bell notification icon. So whenever we have a new video in this same channel, you will get notified. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I love you all. So my people, I have a video here that I want you all to watch, and I myself will be watching with you in this particular video. Feel free to let me know what you think about the video after watching on the comment section below. Like and share this video, and I will see you again in my next one.
He's been on the run for years. Nnamdi is the leader of a separatist group calling for an independent state of Biafra. His followers call themselves the indigenous people of Biafra, and they've not given up their dream of their own homeland in the southeast of Nigeria. The region has seen a surge in attacks, with some 130 police officers killed this year alone. In May, Nigeria's security forces launched an operation to quell the violence, which many fear may lead to a new war. But the conflict between Biafran separatists and the Nigerian government is much older than this recent outbreak. Take a look at the story of one of Nigeria's most wanted fugitives and the project that's been on pause for more than half a century.
Heavy security in Abuja for the trial of one of Nigeria's most notorious separatists. Supporters of Nnamdi Kanu gathered outside the courthouse in anticipation. There were clashes and arrests. But then, mysteriously, the prosecutor failed to deliver Kanu to court.
They said it's a problem of logistics. In simple language, the DSS said they didn't have a vehicle to bring him. As far as I understand the word logistics, and it did not make sense.
Kanu is the controversial and charismatic founder of the indigenous people of Biafra. The group wants independence from Nigeria, which it says oppresses the Igbo people. Supporters say he's a saviour.
Our mission is a very simple one: to restore Biafra, or we die restoring Biafra. That is why the zoo must fall.
Zoo is what Kanu calls Nigeria. His critics say he's a dangerous nationalist. In 2017, DW News sat down with him.
Nigeria is not a civilized country. People behave like animals. They're not reasonable enough. They're not disciplined enough. They are not mentally developed enough to run a transparent civil society.
Don't you think you insult a lot of Nigerians with that?
I'm being very kind, to be honest. I could have used far more harsher words to describe them.
The conflict between the government and ethnic groups in southeast Nigeria dates back half a century. More than 2 million people died during a 2-year war which began in 1967. Hundreds of thousands starved to death. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari served as a general back then. In a recent tweet, he threatened to treat the separatists in the language they understand. For Nnamdi Kanu, long a thorn in Buhari's side, that means incarceration without trial, at least for now.
For more on these developments, we've invited Kabir Adamu onto the show. He's a security analyst from Beacon Consulting and joins us from Abuja. Hello, Mr. Adamu. Welcome to DW News Africa. Now, this looks like history repeating itself. Nnamdi Kanu was arraigned for trial in 2015. The authorities failed to present him in court. Then he was bailed and disappeared. 6 years later, same story, arrested but not brought to court. Is this legal?
There was an expectation, and it was stated by the government that they will be presenting Nnamdi Kanu in court. The reason they cited for not presenting him is logistical, and that reason has been sort of dispelled by both sides, to the extent that the court where the sit-in held and the location where it's being held, or at least the headquarters of the local security department, which is the SSS, is just a few kilometers, less than 10 kilometers actually from each other. So one really wondered what logistical challenges meant when they said that was the reason why they couldn't present it. So in summary, it's not legal in the sense that there was no determination by either side that this case would be one where the trial would be in absentia.
Kanu heads the indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB. How much support does the movement have?
What we've seen in terms of our observation and then the anecdotal information that is available to us shows that the movement has tremendous support, especially among Igbos in the diaspora, as well as Igbo youths. And part of the reason why this support is not only enormous, but it's growing, is because of the perceived and the real perception of marginalization that exists within the Igbo cultural subgroup. And just to give a bit of perspective around this, the country is governed by a northern Fulani. And there is a perception among a majority of Igbos that they are being sidelined in terms of infrastructure, economic empowerment, financial inclusion, sometimes even social and political. Now, in terms of its diaspora support, we know that it has opened accounts, even in the US as an example, and in several European countries, where its membership is donating money. It's also come out with some aspects of national memorabilia, passports, flag that it's selling and its members are buying. And so these are the indications that you see and you know that it has support. Likewise, if you travel to several parts of Western Europe, as well as several parts of Africa, even remote villages, you see persons wearing T-shirts and caps and flags of Biafra. So definitely indicating support among these two groups that I mentioned.
So, is there any chance of the Nigerian authorities talking to the Biafran or any separatists?
I think there are some backdoor channel communication, and a very good example of this is when he was granted bail, it's a serving senator that stood in for him. And when he jumped bail, that senator was never arrested. No sort of clarification or explanation has been given as to why that senator was not arrested. On the other hand, you have a northern senator who stood in for someone who is alleged to have committed fraud, and he was arrested and kept in custody for 3 days. So clearly indicating that perhaps the government is aware of the enormous political weight behind this secessionist agitation, and I believe personally that there is some backdoor communication ongoing, despite the government stance towards IPOB.
Okay, stay with us, Mr. Adamu. We have a report about similar developments across the border in Cameroon. We'll be back with you for more on that in a moment. Those reports from Cameroon indicate English-speaking separatist militias have joined forces with their Nigerian counterparts, a development that has led to fears of an acceleration in violence. The Biafran secessionists and the Ambazonian Defense Force in southwestern Cameroon share a common border and a joint purpose to establish their own states. They say they are already sharing weapons. DW reporter Blaise Young reports from Douala.
Almost 750,000 people have been displaced by the conflict. Mba Doris is one of them. She says government soldiers accuse her entire village of supporting the separatists and touched their homes, hers included. For the last 4 years, she has been staying with her children at this rundown property in the town of Kumba.
They burnt down the entire village and we hid out in the forest. But it was full of mosquitoes, we didn't have much to eat, and we only had dirty water to drink. I made up my mind to leave and seek refuge in the city.
Since the start of 2017, Cameroon's government has deployed thousands of troops to push back Anglophone separatists. The militias are fighting to create a breakaway state they call Ambazonia, and they are looking for new ways to extend their influence. In April this year, a faction of the secessionist movement announced a cross-border partnership with Nigerian separatist group, the indigenous people of Biafra.
About the alliance between the governing council military wing, the ADF, and the IPOD, the indigenous people of Biafra. it has given the Ambazonia Defense Forces unprecedented access to unlimited supply of ammunition from the black market within the Nigerian area. And it has also allowed our forces and both the forces of the Eastern Security Network safe havens across the border.
DW News Africa contacted the Cameroonian army. A military spokesman declined to comment. Mnk&Biafra works for a local human rights organization. They have been documenting the conflict in Cameroon. He says attacks from separatists have increased since their partnership with the Biafrans.
Recently, we have seen, after the collaboration, how the separatist fighters have grown from strength to strength. There have been a wide use of improvised explosive devices on the side of the separatists, and this has led to the killing of so many defense and security forces as compared to the previous years.
This intensification is bad news for Doris. She says she would love to return to her village, but she can't because of the ongoing fighting. The alliance between Anglophone separatists and the Biafrans is only expected to further worsen the conflict in the Cameroonian side. So Doris won't be going back home anytime soon.
Kabir Adamu is still with us. He's a security analyst in Abuja, Nigeria. Mr. Adamu, separatists in Biafra and Ambazonia announced their cooperation earlier this year. Do we know how extensively they are working together?
In the announcement, they indicated that the cooperation would run across a couple of areas. One of them is weapon acquisition and sharing. The other one is training for their members, and then they also mentioned the protection of their common borders. Now we know that the gun running channels in Nigeria are quite extensive, and given Nigeria's sort of proximity, especially in this instance, access to weapons that have sort of fed the militants in the Niger Delta, as well as the outcome of the collapse of Gaddafi in Libya, and the weapons that have flown into the Sahel that are finding their way into the Niger Delta area, and of course into eastern Nigeria. So it's likely that in terms of weapon exchange, both groups it would be sort of a strategic sort of partnership that would benefit both groups. We also know, for instance, that in terms of their mobilization, the negative sort of narrative they put out there against the central government of either country, and they use the mobilization, the strategic partnership built around this negative, cry of marginalization would help both sides.
An alliance sounds definitely like a big deal. What impact could this alliance have on regional stability, for instance?
A lot. If we see Nigeria as the regional superpower, and the fact that it already has a huge task addressing the insurgency that is the region in the Lake Chad Basin area, now with another front opening in the southeast. Let's remember that from the beginning of this year, IPOP or its affiliates have been attacking security forces formations with a ferocity that is indicative of an upcoming insurgency. And now, if that partnership or alliance grows, and we now see a new front in terms of an insurgency in both the southeast of Nigeria and in southern Cameroon, then the capacity of Nigeria to remain as a regional superpower and assist in containing some of the challenges within the sub-region would be reduced tremendously, because it will be dealing with its own internal problems, which unfortunately do exist at the moment, and they are growing at a very worrisome state.
Trying to wrap it up, I wish we had more time. But the use of brutal force against the separatists and occasional rare dialogues haven't stopped the calls for more autonomy. So what is the best way to tackle this situation?
I could tell you two words and then say thank you and leave, and that's good governance. If there will be an improvement in governance to address the root causes of this growing calls for secession, then hopefully this would reduce. In the Nigerian case, and in fact even in the Cameroonian case, a recognition by the central government of some of the grievances. A good example is a recognition that this number of people died during the Biafran War in 1967 to 1970, as well as in the case of Cameroon, and perhaps the declaration of a national holiday around that period, and some form of political action to show recognition, engagement, as well as to address the concerns around inclusion, diversity, as well as the feeling of marginalization, I think would go a long way towards reducing the agitations as against the use of brutal force.
Kabir Adamu, security analyst in Abuja, thanks for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
As we just heard, one way to defuse the crisis in Nigeria would be good governance. Yet for some in the region, it was actually the election of President Muhammadu Buhari, himself a veteran of the Biafran War, that reawakened calls for independence. Now the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu has only heightened tensions. We sent West Africa correspondent Fred Muvunyu to Biafra to meet a veteran of the war who wants to avoid a return to conflict.
Ghosts of war are easily found in Biafra. Sasakaru's rebel unit captured and used an armored car like this during the war. He is still haunted.
Wickedness. Black man against black man. Hatred. Before you kill somebody, you must hate the person passionately. I mean, they slaughter these people.
The weapons which crushed the independence movement, killing millions of people, are now in this museum. This museum behind me keeps the memory of what the people of Biafra went through so many years ago. It's been 5 decades now, and the desire of having an independent state of Biafra is still fresh. War veteran Sasa says more than 50 years after the war, the region is worse off than before.
You can smell poverty, baby. And I don't know about Lagos, I don't know about Abuja, I'm talking about where I live. It's poverty. It's not just poverty, abject poverty.
People here are accompanied by the ghosts of war. It's difficult to know how many people want independence. A government crackdown makes talking about it a frightening prospect. This man leads a coalition of youth leaders in the region. He says the way to silence calls for Biafran independence is for Nigeria to elect an Igbo president.
We have people who, if given the opportunity, they will turn the economy of the entire country to be a super and developed economy. So we want power so that we can tell Nigerians that we have what it takes to make things right.
Both these men want change in Biafra, but their hopes for an independent Biafra are considered far-fetched by many analysts. It's this generation who will make the next crucial moves.
The war stopped then and didn't continue. We thank God for that. But now there are instabilities. We hope for stabilities.
I think people should tolerate each other. They should be tolerant, like tolerate other people's individual differences so that war does not spring up.
During that time, starvation was at its peak. Many Nigerians, many Biafrans died at that time. So, in spite of the instability, war is never an option.
The veteran gives a voice to the ghosts and he talks to the young. Their understanding of what happened before will affect how they shape the future.
Thank you so much for watching that particular video. Feel free to let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below. Like and share this video, and I will see you guys again in my next one. Bye.